What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another very exciting episode right here on the MIgardener channel. In today's episode, I'm going to share with you a few methods to control, if not completely eliminate, the growth of algae and mold in your seedling trays. Let's go. So a lot of gardeners will face at some point in their life the growth of mold and algae in their seedling trays. It's very common when starting seeds indoors as well. And the problem is a lot of gardeners live with it. Living with the growth of mold and algae, thinking it'll just magically go away, is a big problem because it ultimately ends in either killing your plants or severely stunting them. And once your plants are either dead or severely stunted, you've lost precious time and sometimes you have to completely restart. And a lot of gardeners, they will go online and they will try to find out how to combat mold and algae growth. And the answers they get online are just unfortunately band-aids. I can't tell you how many times I've seen on forums or even in blog posts where they're recommending spraying things on the soil or covering the soil with things like cinnamon to kill off mold because cinnamon is antifungal, or killing off algae with things like copper fungicide or like a baking soda spray because you're going to change the pH and kill the algae. And while those are true, they aren't actually effective at changing the growing conditions, which is the big thing, because the growing conditions are actually what is allowing the algae and the mold to continue to grow. Mold and algae is a sign of simply one thing: too much moisture. And the problem is that too much moisture in the sign of water can actually be affecting my plant health. If I'm starting to see signs of yellowing of leaves, rotting roots, the root system is very small or weak, or the plant might just grow and then fall right over, like dampening off. Or maybe the plant starts to grow and just stops growing entirely, just gets very stunted. A lot of gardeners will then try to treat those things, like they'll try to fertilize if the leaves are yellow, or they'll try to fertilize if the plant is stunted, or they'll try to spray the algae and the fungus with different things and cover them up and try to do all these band-aids. But the nice thing is that it's very simple to fix, but as long as you fix the actual problem, which is the moisture. And that's the topic of today's video. There's lots of things that can be causing too much moisture. So it's not going to be just as quick as simple as saying it's moisture, because at its surface, yes, it's a moisture problem. But I want to go deeper than that. I want to actually teach you guys something so that you know the how and the why of why things happen and how to fix them. So with that being said, let's jump on into today's video. I'm going to cover the first thing, which is the soil type. So a lot of gardeners, when they're looking at the potting soil that they use or the seed starting mix that they use, they like to go with their favorite kind. There's lots of different kinds out there. But one thing in particular you want to look at is the amount of perlite found in the mix. The presence of perlite, especially when growing indoors, is very important. Because what happens if you don't have enough perlite in your soil, it actually allows the soil over time to actually compact. And when soil compacts, even indoors, that actually reduces the amount of air, which actually reduces the time, or it increases the time it takes the soil to dry out. And the longer it takes the soil to dry out, the higher the chance of mold and algae forming. Think of a pond or a swamp. Swamps and ponds are wet all the time. If you look at like a forest floor that's wet all the time, what do you see? You see rotting wood, which is the form caused by rot and mold. You see things like mushrooms, or you might see things like algae growing on rocks, or moss growing on rocks, or algae growing in a pond. And that is actually caused from it being wet all the time. And so having a high percentage of perlite in your soil is really beneficial. I've actually got a tray here of onions and asparagus that's showing some signs of algae growth. And one thing to note in particular, and I'll bring you guys in close for some close-up shots, but one thing you'll notice in particular is that I ran out of my really good soil. My really good soil is very high in perlite. The soil that I switched it to did not have as much perlite, and it's very convenient to note that the side that had the algae issues is actually the side with the poor soil. It actually has not enough perlite. And so you notice some signs of compaction, you notice some signs of algae growth, whereas just next door, The amount that I've watered has not changed. The amount of light that they've gotten has not changed. Nothing has changed environmentally except for the soil. And you'll notice, absolutely beautiful, loose, fluffy soil with good color compared to quite compacted, quite icky looking, algae rich soil. So that's a big thing. Make sure that your soil, the potting mix that you choose, is at least 40 to 50% perlite. It's gonna sound like a lot of perlite, but if you add a lot of perlite, that's gonna keep the soil loose and well draining, which is gonna keep water actually draining through your soil. The goal of growing plants indoors is not to water once a week. It's to water every day to maybe every other day or so, but watering at a pace that allows the soil to drain, dry out, water again, it drains, it dries out, you water again, it drains and it dries out. And it's that cycle that keeps your soil and your plants healthy. The second reason that causes mold and mildew is because of the growing container itself. A lot of gardeners like to go with things like peat pots, and I have talked about this so many times, that those little cow pots or the peat pots, the things that are like compressed coconut husk fiber pots, those are all made from organic material, and organic material holds on to water. There is something to be said about plastic. I know a lot of you don't like growing in plastic. That's fine. I totally respect that opinion. However, one of the downsides to growing in things that are organic is that because they hold on to so much moisture, they can also rot and mold. The third reason why you have mold or algae is you're watering too much. Now, if you're watering too much and your plants are staying wet too long, this is a common problem. A lot of gardeners fear that their plants are going to dry out, and if they dry out, their plants are going to die. What you forget is that plants are really resilient. Even small little seedlings like this, they can go bone dry and still perk right back up. I'm not suggesting that you let your plants go bone dry, but having a dry out period is very important because it actually inhibits or stops the growth of algae and mold. Having that dry out period is vital to making sure that your soil stays loose and breathable and free of mold and algae, and your plants will not mind it one bit. The fourth most common cause for mold and algae growth is a lack of airflow. I've talked about all the time how a little fan like this can make a huge difference on your overall plant health. And one of those differences is reducing mold and algae growth. A simple little oscillating fan like this, I got this one for $5 at a garage sale, and a simple little oscillating fan like this gently blows air over the soil. And what that does is it actually increases the rate of evaporation. The faster your soil can evaporate or dry out, the less time there's going to be water in your soil. And remember, the longer there's water in your soil, the higher the chances of mold and algae. So the fifth and final thing that we can do as gardeners to prevent or eliminate mold and algae is surface compaction. This is something that mold and algae actually have biologically grown to kind of adapt to do. And that's that when you have a thin layer of mold and algae, they don't really grow that deep into the soil. They actually grow right on top. They grow on top and they create these little sheets. And what those little sheets do is it actually captures water. So when you water overhead, the water is actually trapped on top of the mold and algae. It actually creates kind of like a little barrier. And that barrier actually will allow the mold and algae to continue to grow, but it also reduces the amount of water that can get down into the soil. So meanwhile, your plants are drying out, and so you water because your plants are dry, but then it just beads up on top of the mold and algae, and the mold and algae continue to grow. Meanwhile, your plants start to shrivel and die. And so one way to combat this is by bottom watering. I always recommend bottom watering because it actually will take the water around and circumvent the mold and algae on top, so you can actually get the roots of the plants water without promoting surface algae and surface mold. So a lot of gardeners want to water over the top of their soil, and that is fine. It's especially fine outside, because if you can increase the rate of the water, the pressure of the water, you can actually kind of break up and kind of chip away at some of that surface mold and algae. And if you can chip that away and kind of break it up, it actually will allow water to go down into the soil, which is fine. But if you're watering very gently and you don't want to cause a whole lot of splashing, that's actually going to be contributing to more algae growth and more fungus growth, because that's what they want. That's the objective. So by getting a little tray like this that is lacking holes, so you can flood it and then fill it up with water and let your plants just wick the water up naturally, and then removing them from the water, obviously, so you don't have too much water, removing them from that tray so that they can take the water up from underneath. That is the fifth and final way that you can greatly reduce mold and mildew without having to, spray things or cover things. Again, I want to reiterate that the act of covering your soil with things like cinnamon is not that it doesn't work, it's that it doesn't actually treat the actual problem, which is the sign of too much water. Things like fungus gnats, they like damp soil, they like rotting roots, they like rotting organic material. That's where they lay their eggs, and that's where they thrive. So if you can dry out the soil, you're reducing the rotting and wet material, which will reduce fungus gnats. And if you have things like root rot, again, root rot is caused from the roots just rotting away because it's too wet. If you allow your plants to dry out, it not only cuts down on the fungus and the algae, but it also gives time for your roots to redevelop. So those are 5 simple ways that you can actually help to reduce mold and algae growth in your seedling trays. And hopefully you guys found this informative. Hopefully you guys learned something new. If you did, make sure to throw a like up there. Subscribe if you're not yet already. We have so much more gardening content coming out, and I'm just really excited about it. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you learned something new. And as always, this is Luke from the MIgardener channel, reminding you to grow big or go home. I'll catch you all later. See ya. Bye.